Hello, I'd like to talk today about my particular meditation journey and what I found to be helpful in building some approximation of loving awareness. I found three qualities to be most interesting here. That is wisdom, love, and devotion. Wisdom specifically is seeing clearly. It's vipassana or cho. Love is specifically the Brahmaviharas. That is the compassion, compersion, equanimity, and friendliness. And devotion is about the otherworldly, working with the experiences that are awe-inducing and helping to relate with beings and deities to deepen my motivation to practice. I think starting out as somewhat of a materialist, I found my way to understanding that the world is not what I think it is after some experiences that were mind altering, to say the least. And there is that quality of wanting to stabilize this knowing that the world is not what I think it is. How do I continue to live within that understanding? This brought me to Michael Taft's meditations of openness, vipassana, dropping the ball. And here, there's this quality of knowing. It wasn't really fathomable to me yet. And often my ego, myself, would latch on to some theory of knowing, some conceptualization of this is it. And each time I would feel this grand, aha, I did it. And then can I get knocked back down? Like, oh, I don't actually know that either. Even that seeming to know changes. But it brought me to pretty interesting dynamic of feeling like I've found some sense of knowing and then finding out that even that is impermanent and cycling through then these highs and lows. At some point I really felt like I found something that I knew to be true. But this brought me to ungroundedness, thinking that knowing was constantly being with every little thought that emerged and acting as a deity to see it open. What this did was lean into thought much more than the body or even just awakeness itself. So then I did a loving kindness retreat where I learned about the power of just repeating, may I be well, may you be well, may we be well, may all beings be well. And following this kind of patterning with phrases that were meaningful to me, may all beings be free from suffering. And this brought up lots of that which was not aligned with what I was saying. It was as if what I was saying was a teacher pointing out, hey, when I do this, it actually is coming from the motivation to be liked, which is actually fear-based, as opposed to may all beings feel love and peace, which comes from this feeling of my own love and desiring for your own love and peace. It was alarming to see how I acted before, recognizing this, how some of these core actions were actually based in unwholesome motivations, how my helpfulness maybe was actually sometimes because I wanted to be liked. And then I took a month-long journey to New York City right after this Loving Kindness retreat. So I have some semblance of awake awareness. And I have something to ground my motivation into this phrase. Now, New York brought me to see there are some things I still struggle with. There are some projections of others that I struggle to just shine love to. That even saying this phrase at times, may all beings be free from suffering, is actually a kind of bypassing, to not look at this projection of a person walking down the street. To be with even that projection in a way that recognizes it is nothing other than loving awareness expressing itself. That seemed to be difficult. But it was here that I also developed a practice that I love, absolutely love. It is building my own loving kindness beat that my body can dance to in subtle ways as I walk, as I breathe. And it uses the iambic pentameter alongside may all beings be free from suffering with my breath, with my steps. And it can be built from the ground up, starting just with may all beings be free from suffering, then using iambic pentameter. May all beings be free from suffering. And then following that with the breath. And saying it in my head, mouthing it at times. And then walking around New York a whole lot, following the breath with each step, with the phrase. And this built the rhythm of my heart there. It didn't matter what I chose to do, I could just trust it was coming from this place of love, loving awareness. And I could be bold. It was during the summertime too, just the start of summer, so people were really coming into themselves. An effulgence of experience. And it was beautiful for me to experience that of myself, this boldness from trusting loving awareness, trusting that motivation in my heart, that I can learn what it means to be free from suffering and wish that for others. Now, going back to the difficulties that I had with particular energies of perceptions of others. Right after New York, I went on another retreat that was through Michael Taft. And here I recognized that the work of seeing clearly is never done. It keeps unfolding. And even when I rest, the doer is seeing clearly. That's something I love about Michael Taft's models, is the clarity of what to fall back onto when I feel like I don't have enough traction to see clearly in my whole experience, to drop into that awake awareness. So there's this psychosomatic move that I like to do now that reminds me of dropping in just before doership and then resting the doer too. And that's just seeing through my upper dantian all sights, all sounds, all senses, felt sense, to just be source. And then resting in that. And then feeling into that spectrum of doership and recognizing that, oh, I can relax more, knowing that everything is just source. I can feel myself easing into the flow, which kind of sends all that energy back into my heart, where things can really just rest. And then, of course, there's the lower dantian too, which is the source of power and pleasure in some cases. And to feel that heart openness, it's none other than the pleasure that I'm seeking, the power that I'm seeking to keep feeling that heart openness. That ingrains it into the depths of my experience. And there's rest there. There is softness within that generation of strength, of resonance. So that's kind of where I'm at now. This wisdom, love, and devotion. Devotion. The moments when I struggle with dropping in, just being dropped in to my best approximation of loving awareness, I work with reverse goal setting through deities. Reverse goal setting is if the goal is to see even what is making it difficult for me to be dropped in, seeing even that holding pattern as awakeness, then I experience the being who can easily do that. The being who can easily be with whatever holding pattern that I have that makes it difficult for me to be dropped in. I work with that deity And this can be a very imaginal practice, like feeling that holding pattern, that density somewhere in my psychosomatic landscape, and then asking questions like, what do you look like? What do you sound like? And then from that, feeling then the being who can be with that in its entirety, in its awakeness. And that being is inherently resting in the Brahmaviharas, in love itself. They are inherently wise, and they have this style that is specific to whatever holding pattern, whatever density I'm working with. I think working with deities in this way is akin to Michael's building traction model of awakeness. In this case, I'm working with the psychosomatic landscape of awakeness, to resource ourselves, to see even what is currently dense to us as awake, loving awareness. So I think that's something I really want to offer now, is what does it look like to do imaginal practice in such a way to resource ourselves towards awakeness, towards loving awareness, the wisdom and love. And it really is just about building relationships, or seeing the relationship that's already there because it is within experience, within awareness. There are some deities that I do consistently return back to. That is Hanuman, the deity of devotion, and Avalokiteshvara, the deity of compassion, who seeks to just help. They are both deities of service, beings of service for deities and all beings. I find Hanuman to be particularly empowering, to see the deity within myself, the awake, wise, devoted to service Michael, with my own unique holding patterns that continue to persist, that drive me to service of loving awareness over and over again. And Avalokiteshvara is a being that I continually rest back into. So instead of the metta beat of may all beings be free from suffering, I'm right now working with a deity metta drum that is Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, and saying that with my heartbeat, until it is my heartbeat, until it is my breath, and even then it is a subtle quality. In my deity yoga class with Peter McEwen, I guess it's just a talk right now, soon to be a class, he speaks of building or seeing the deity within their heart, another deity, and within that heart's deity, within that deity's heart is a mala of mantra. How do I begin to build that for myself as something that continues to ground me within the commotion of the city, within the allure of holding patterns of the age of information. I think acupuncture is, for me, a container by which to really see and empower others, holding patterns of loving awareness. What is their unique expression of their own nature? Working with the particular holding pattern that is available to us right now, because there is nowhere else to be, nothing else to work with than that which is available right now. I am in New York City now. I am looking for ways to deepen my understanding of this, to keep learning, to approach with that mindset, and do what I need to do to sustain that learning here. To keep following my teacher's footsteps. And by teacher, I mean the direction of the universal mandala that is forward, that keeps relating me to what it is that I am experiencing, to keep learning skillful ways to navigate experience, and keep being with that which is unskillful in myself. For whatever reason, whenever I think about offering these understandings, it doesn't quite feel like what is resonant. That almost feels like a holding pattern in itself that I am working with. The sense of pushing information out, as opposed to continuing to weave in that push and pull of inner nature, of awakeness, just flowing within that river. Wisdom, love, and devotion. I dedicate this video, this offering, if it can be called that, to all beings along their path to expressing themselves in ways that empower them with whatever it is that they are moving forward with.